Ajusta Tu Corona was a dream of mine since I was very young. I didn't bring it to fruition until I was much older. And basically what it is we all have a story to tell. And a lot of people were not aware of my story, of their stories, and they were a little bit shocked to find out what our humble beginnings were and how we became so successful. So never underestimate the power of your story. It is inspirational, it is motivational, it can save someone's life. My message to all the women out there and to everyone out there who may be facing adversity, never forget how amazing you are. Never forget how exceptional you are. Ajusta tu corona and keep it moving. Great evening, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with Ajusta Tu Corona. This is a special edition this evening. I'm normally on Thursday, and we're holding it today because we just had our gala this weekend, and I want people to speak on the feelings, the emotions, what they got out of it while it's still fresh in their minds, while it's still fresh in their hearts. So tonight we are being honored by Sharissa Hardaway. She was one of the speakers at the event. She has an absolutely amazing story because remember, this platform is to recognize achievement, tenacity, and courage for all those people that triumphed over their tragedy. So it may not be adequate for everyone's ears, but I personally think that young ladies, our daughters, young men need to listen to these stories as well, because if they don't know and they don't learn at a young age, by the time they become adults in relationships with a domestic partner, these little red flags that we're going to talk about today may not go off. They may just think it's a natural thing. So it's better to let them know from an early age. So if your children or your young adults are listening, I think that it's okay. Normally we speak on topics where we're not sure if they should be on, but I personally think it is okay for them to listen to this conversation. Remember, we are on Instagram. We are on Facebook. We have a website, Ajusta Tu Corona is all of it. I'm going to just put up a quick link in case you guys, because Ajusta Tu Corona is a Spanish name, but it translates to adjust your crown. And I'm just going to put it up quickly so you guys. So because the gala was this weekend, the tickets to the gala have been sold out. I mean, the gala is over, so there's no need to go in there and purchase. But we are still taking donations. Remember, we're trying to raise funds for Help Now of Osceola in Florida and to have paid for the gala. So if you still find it in your heart, or if you haven't met that tax deductible deduction that you want for your taxes, we're over here. So I am about to bring Sharissa on now. Remember, Ajusta Tu Corona, please follow. Like I said, we're on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We have a website. Please subscribe. And we want those algorithms moving because this is a very important cause. With this being Domestic Violence Month, we have been crazy making everyone aware. So here is. Hello.
So good to see you again.
Yes, definitely. It was lots of hugs, tears this weekend. So tell us about this event that you spoke at.
So this weekend I went to an event for Ajusta Tu Corona. It was an amazing gala. It was a tea party, which was beautiful. As soon as I walked in, so I was a guest speaker. I'll start from there. I was a guest speaker, and this might have been maybe my second or third time talking in front of an audience. So I was very, very nervous walking in. And as soon as I walked in, when I tell you the warmth in the room just like consumed me. I walked in, people that I didn't know hugged me. We spoke, we networked before it actually began. So everybody was so nice and so sweet. And it was one of those events that you don't know you need until you leave, and you say to yourself, wow, I needed that. I needed that. I think everyone that attended needed that, and I think that it was, even after the event, all day long, I kept telling my husband, like, I am high off the event. It had me so full. I have been running for a while on an empty cup, and that day I was overflowed, and it was amazing. It was really amazing.
You know, Sharissa, I advertised this. This event was my fifth year.
Yeah.
And as I stated, when I first started the event, I had such a fear of public speaking that my voice, like there was a knot in my throat and I couldn't even get the words out. And I actually started crying. And at this year's event, I did announce that I didn't even hold a card to remind me of what it was that I was supposed to say. And that's to say the growth and how important this cause is to me, that I just do not shut up about it. I speak on it, speak, speak, speak. I'm constantly looking for sponsors. It's just so near and dear to my heart, not to mention the fact that I myself was a victim of domestic violence. And that feeling that you're talking about, that feeling of warmth and being on this high
Hmm.
is is what most of the women come out with, because it isn't only a networking event. it it's like a spiritual healing that you need. And what were the words that you said that I was just like taken aback?
So it was a domestic violence gala. It was for domestic violence month, which was amazing. But it was more like a healing process. It was, so the title of the whole gala was Kitsuji, a masterpiece, which I didn't know what it meant until you explained it to me. So it meant, it's a Japanese form where they have broken plates and they put these pieces back together with like gold.
Hmm.
And the whole time I didn't know that was it. I didn't know what that meant until you explained it at the end, and it was like a aha light came on, because that's how I felt. It felt like we all had walked into that event kind of broken from the things we had been through, and together as a, I wouldn't even say a sisterhood because there were men there, but as a community in that room, we put each other back piece by piece with gold. Like, it was like we put each other together, and it was amazing. Everybody walked out of there with a feeling of fullness, and that's what kintsugi means: the broken plate and then putting it back together. So it was perfect from start to finish. It was the perfect title for that gala.
Yeah. So when we did our galas in prior years, one of the girls actually did a speech on it, and it stuck with us. We just thought that it was like the most amazing speech that someone could have done, because it fits so perfectly um, in the meaning of our gala. So it is called kintsugi, and it is the Japanese form of art where any broken pottery is put back together again, creating a masterpiece. So we are broken from all of the things that we go through, but then you go to events like this where you are put back together and you become a masterpiece. You walk out of there feeling like a masterpiece. And I think your words to me were, "My cup runneth over."
Yeah, it was. It's funny because I kept telling Mike, my husband, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't breathe, but I couldn't breathe because I was so calm. I was at a calming space. Like, it had been such a, like, the last 2 weeks have been all over and chaotic. And after that event, I literally came home, back to the hotel, and I fell asleep because I finally felt like a relief feeling, like, came over me, and I was full of like love from strangers. We hadn't met each other before, and from this point, from that day on, we will be a sisterhood. And I really understood that and felt that when I left, and it was amazing.
Absolutely. It was, when I talk about this event, I say everything that pours from my heart. I'm like, it's healing, it's networking, it's giveaways, it's vendors, and people just think, oh, it's just another networking event. And then I go on lives and I talk about, I can't, because you can't capture. that feeling and market it.
I can't even really explain that feeling to this day. I'm trying as hard as I can to give the word so people can understand that is an event that if you missed it this time, you never want to miss it again. But I can't even explain exactly how good you felt leaving. Like it was. I feel like crying now. It was amazing. I didn't know, like I said, I didn't know I needed it, and I surely did. And I'm so glad. I thank you for giving me the opportunity to even be there because I'm never gonna miss it again. And I feel like from knowing me, you knew I needed it, and as a friend and as a sister, you had me there and you allowed me to be there, and I'm forever grateful.
Oh, I'm filled with gratitude that you agreed to come. I mean, the event was held in Florida. She flew in from Connecticut, so I am so grateful to you for having done that. If you to the audience that's watching, if you have any questions whatsoever for me or Sharissa, please you can write them, text them, comment on our conversation, and we'll gladly answer. We'll stop what we're doing. We'll ask whatever questions you may have. But the most exciting part of tonight is Sharissa is going to give us an excerpt from her book.
Yes.
And get comfortable, get your cup of coffee, get your cup of tea, because you are in for such a special moment.
Thank you so much. Um, it is real and raw, so I apologize for anybody who. It's a few curse words, but it was I gave this book was me, and so I had to give it to you as raw as I could. So I'm just gonna read a small passage from one of the chapters. One day we went to spend the weekend in the Bronx. At that point, we lived on an on-campus apartment on Stony Brook, Long Island campus. We had such a great day. We had come from a little carnival on the other side of the Bronx. We were on our way to spend the night at Shannon's house. As we were coming off the D train on 188th Street in the Grand Concourse, just laughing and reminiscing about the afternoon, we passed one of the buildings a block away from Webster Avenue. One of the fellas standing outside of the block of the building said, "God bless you, Ma." I responded, "Thank you," and we proceeded to walk. We took about 4 more steps when all of a sudden I tasted blood. What the hell had just happened? Did someone just throw something at us? Wait, did someone hit me? The pain was intense. Hold on, did he just hit me? Did this mofo just lose his damn mind? All these questions ran through my head as blood dripped down my face. I turned to look at him. Keezy, my Keezy, had so much anger in his eyes. He was yelling at me, but I couldn't tell you what he was saying. With the loud ringing in my ears and my own voice in my head, I had zoned him out. All I could hear was that he was most definitely yelling at me. What the F just happened? Is this ninja out his effing mind? All of a sudden, I started walking. I mean, speed walking to the corner. I could still hear him yelling, but I couldn't hear the words. I just could not believe my mouth was bleeding because he'd smacked the shit out of me. Anger had set in, and in no time, I was on the corner of 188th Street and Webster trying to hail a cab. I was on fire. The thought that I had never had anyone touch me like that before in my life, and I will be damned if this asshole will, was all that was running through my head. I was so embarrassed. I chilled in this area. I knew a lot of people in this area. Had anyone seen? I was trying to process so much in those seconds. Out of nowhere, I felt someone hug me from behind, and I automatically started swinging. I didn't know what was going to happen. I was just on guard in case this ninja thought he was going to hit me again. The yelling I had been hearing was now just a whisper. I looked up, and it was him. He was hugging me and crying. I looked into his eyes, and all that anger I saw was now fear. He was wiping my mouth and kissing me, and then I could finally hear him. "I'm so sorry, baby. I got jealous. I'm an ass. Let me see, Ma. Please, let me see." He seemed devastated. Suddenly, he was pulling me toward the corner store. He wasn't letting me resist. I didn't know what to do. He got me inside and laid me on the counter. He yelled to the man behind the counter, "Papi, Please give me some ice and paper towels. My girl tripped outside and busted her lip. What? I yelled. He came back running over, wiping me up with tissue, whispering that he loved me and that he was so sorry. He was kissing me and asking me if I loved him, begging me to say yes. Of course I did. He smiled this huge smile. He looked so relieved, so sorry. He begged me to forget it, pleaded with me not to tell anyone. He said he had never been that jealous before and he blacked out. He started crying again, and I begged him to stop. I promised him that I would never tell anyone. I told myself he had never done this before, and we had been together for a minute now. I told myself that I could understand him being that angry because of how much he loved me. And now he had me convinced it was a fluke. This is a little TMI, but to understand what I'm trying to convey, I have to tell you a few intimate things. That night, the sex was incredible. It was deep. During our episode, he brought up the incident and apologized over and over. I could tell how sorry he was. All night at Shannon's, he was perfect. He was his loving self again. I truly felt bad that he was so hurt. Crazy, right? He smacked the shit out of me, and I was feeling bad for him. I had learned to blame myself for his shortcomings. Then, right before we ended, he wrapped his hands around my hair, pulled my neck back, and continued to tell me to apologize to him for entertaining another ninja. The longer I waited to answer, the harder he pulled. I was sorry. Over and over is all I kept repeating. Had I apologized for his wrongdoing ass? It was his fault, but again I convinced myself that it was also my fault. He started crying and so did I. We got to our ending together. Like I said, the passion was crazy. He hugged me tight and pulled me close. Don't ever let that shit happen again. Guess what? It wasn't a fluke.
Wow. Sharissa, after that night, that was the first time that he hit you. How long did you stay with him?
After that night, maybe another 3.5 years.
And after that night, so it was 3.5 years of abuse.
3.5 years.
And it's just amazing. Like now we look back at it and we're like, oh, we're never gonna let anybody treat us like that again. But in my experience, my first domestic violence relationship ended. And 7 years later, I married a man that I met in church who became my second domestic violent relationship. And what was the straw that broke the camel's back? What finally made you leave?
So I ended up becoming pregnant by him. My oldest daughter is his daughter. And it got a lot worse it started off very slow and it got a lot worse as the time went on. And she was about 6 months, and we lived together. We were inside our house, and he had a horrible day, and he came home, and I just happened to be his punching bag, and he was mad and just started swinging. So I was holding the baby at the time. I was actually feeding her, and I kept trying to block him, but he kept hitting me. And so at one point, he hit me so hard I hit the ground. And when I went to down on the ground, he went to kick me in my face. And he did. He kicked me really hard. And I started screaming. And by this time, we lived on the first floor. And I guess the neighbors had heard. So they were banging on the door and everything. And there were people in the hallway. So when he realized people were out there, he opened the door and ran. And they called the ambulance. And the ambulance comes and they're trying to wipe me up. And I'm still holding the baby. And there's still blood. Like there's still blood. And they're wiping. And I'm trying to figure out where the blood is coming from. And when I looked down, it was coming from her head. He had kicked me in the mouth, but in the midst of it all, he must have skinned her head. And so she ended up having to get 7 stitches. And so that was the straw for me. I realized that it was the whole time it was always about me. So I kind of could ignore it. But once it became about my child, I couldn't do it anymore. And so I had to put her first. And I still blame myself to this day that at that moment I wasn't putting her first, because if I was, she would have never been in that situation. And in the book, I actually write a letter to her.
Wow. So this book, that's just a piece, a little sliver of what's in this amazing book. Her story is incredible. So if you decide that you would like to purchase Sharissa's book, this is the link. And let me see if I can get this other one here as well.
Please do, because if you missed the Ajusta Tu Corona Gala this year, I'm telling you, as a friend, as a stranger, you do not want to miss this next year. When I tell you, I was telling Lillian the whole time, like I'm kind of upset that I'm gonna go to other events all year long because I know nothing's gonna compare to what I felt and what I went through in my experience at this gala. You do not want to miss it next year. Trust me.
Thank
Give
you.
me give me
Thank you
moving.
for that amazing advertising. Maybe I can take that clip and use it when I start advertising for next year's event.
Yes,
So these
yes.
are themed events, and you don't have to wear a costume. But the reason that I chose themes is because most of the time, we as women are just home and our sweatpants and our robes, taking care of our kids, taking care of our domestic partner,
Yes.
and we need a reason to get up, get dressed, and go look cute and enjoy ourselves and be among other like-minded women. I mean, we had at this event, we had engineers, we had peoples with masters, PhDs, uh, to a young girl, to young girls, even the staff from the catering company, they were overwhelmed with emotion. The one of the girls couldn't even stay in the room. She had to walk out. So this is not about me. This is about adjusting your crown. This is
Mhm.
about the fulfillment that your heart needs, the healing that your heart and mind need. It is a mindset. We do an activity where we ask you to release things that may be weighing you down. So there is a little bit that takes place, and every year I try to change it up a little bit with an activity. The performers were amazing.
Amazing.
Oh my gosh! And
Amazing.
this was my first year holding the event in Orlando, Florida. It was Winter Park, Florida. And when I tell you that God put me there, God put me there because I have been living in Connecticut my entire life. And I moved down south to South Carolina. But one of the co organizers lives in Florida, and my sister lives in Florida. So I was like, and I had, whenever I do these conversations with Ajusta Tu Corona, I have people that send us messages saying, when are you coming to Florida? When are you coming to Florida? I was like, okay, let's go have it in Florida. Didn't know anybody there, didn't know where to hold it, just looked up an address on Google.
Which is beautiful, by the way.
It was beautiful. I
Beautiful.
booked it sight unseen. I booked it
Beautiful.
from South Carolina. I never even saw the place until we got there. So we
Beautiful.
booked this sight unseen, and I signed the contract for it. Uh, I had two singers, both of them coming from Connecticut. One of them couldn't make it because it was going to be a mom and daughter weekend, and the mom ended up having to work, so she couldn't make it. And the other one, so when that one bowed out, the DJ, who is my niece's boyfriend, they've been together forever, so I call him my nephew. He's in the music industry. And I said to him, I need a singer. He goes, there's performances at your conference? I said, I advertise it all the time. He's like, oh, okay. Well, I said, yes, it is a fundraiser, so I can't pay anybody. And then I said, but so he reached out to, to Angie Canton. Within 10 minutes, she was in my mail, saying that she would love to participate in the event, that she loves women empowered main events, and she signed on like that. So she covered the first one. The second girl, when I was advertising all the performances, decided that she couldn't make it. And I was like, oh, I'm short a performer. The next day, Michelle was in my inbox on Instagram saying, I just found out at your event and I want to sing there. Okay. So if God did not do this,
He definitely did.
I was left speechless. It's like something would go wrong, the next day something would go right. And something would go wrong, the next day something came to take its place. It was just, and I was like, it has to happen. It has to happen. I even got sick a few days before the event. And I thought I wasn't going to be able to make it. So I was ready, like, to give everybody a job. Like, I was like, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. And thank God I was there and it happened.
It was so, I was telling you before how everything just flowed. So I'm not saying the first two performances that you had weren't excellent, but with the two performances that you got last, it was just, if everything fit, it was like we were like puzzles to a piece that got whole. It really was. It was amazing. I keep telling her I don't even know how to explain it because it's a feeling that you can't explain. It was an event that I will remember for a lifetime because it touched me that much.
You have to be there.
So you have to be there.
That you don't miss it next year.
Oh, don't.
I haven't picked a date yet, but I'll be picking a date within the next week. And then I'm going to put a big sign, save the date.
Oh, please do save the date, get your plane tickets, make sure you get everything set because you're not going to want to miss it.
Oh, thank you so much for that review of the recap of the event. I really appreciate it. And it was meant to be in Florida. I had held it in Connecticut for 4 years. And when I tell you that my phone did not stop buzzing for 5 hours after the event ended, like every single person in the place. I just got a message on the website saying what an absolutely beautiful event from a person I have no idea who they are. I'm thinking it has to be one of the employees, but
maybe it was one of
the employees from the venue because I had no idea who the person was. The DJ, like everybody came in and thank God for the DJ. It's DJ Shanti. Who?
Your sister is an amazing
my sister, Diane.
Amazing.
You know, we're sisters, so we argued a lot when we were growing up, but we're sisters. We love each other to death. And I had asked her to be the MC of the event, and she told me no. I don't want any part of it. No. So she is now one of my board members. She agreed to that because she wouldn't have to work directly with me. She does, but she's got other people that would probably go on her side. And we're getting together and we're doing timing as to how much time everyone's going to get. And I said, I'm going to be my own MC. And she said, and then I said, because you told me no. And I was just being funny. And she's like, you never asked me to be the MC. I was like, I asked you 2 months ago and you told me no. Then I told you to ask your friend and you said she wasn't a good fit. She's like, oh, yeah, I remember that now. Okay, I'll be the last minute. The night before, she decided to be the MC. And when I tell you that she did amazing, that she was right on point with everything is an understatement.
She had small like tidbits in between where she gave maybe a poem or a phrase, and for her to have done that last minute and it just went with every, like after every speaker, after every performance, she said something. It was like it like went from that performance to the next performance or the next speaker. It was, I don't know how she did it. She's great.
let me tell you, first of all, I have to thank God because
Yes.
without him, none of this would have been possible. But the people that supported me, like I could cry for this event, is unbelievable. And I had Milagros Medina and I had Maritza Figueroa up at 5:30 in the morning, the day of the event, making centerpieces
Which were
because
beautiful.
we had fresh flowers and they didn't
Mhm.
want them to wilt and they didn't want them to look ugly. So they didn't make them the night before. And they got up at 5:30 in the morning to make the centerpieces for this event. So when I tell you that everyone poured their heart and soul into this event, I really mean it. And I think that that is another reason why it is so good because everyone gives their all. Everyone gives from their heart. And we do it with a smile on our faces, wanting to help our sisters, our tribe, everyone that comes to the event. We want them to understand that there is a much better, amazing life on the other side. Love is not meant to hurt.
Oh
And
no.
that's what a lot of us do not understand. As a young girl, when the guy is like manhandling you or yelling at you because he's jealous, we think it's cute because it's the way that they're showing us love.
Oh yeah.
And we have to teach our daughters, our sons, that that is not love. Love is respect. That is not love. So there's so much to learn. My niece was at the event. And when I tell you that this young lady was so emotional throughout the entire event, she said to me, Auntie, I have never experienced anything that these women experience. I can't believe how spoiled I am. And she said, and I never knew that the event was like that. I thought I was going to sit there and listen to people talk and lecture. She said it was an absolutely amazing event. And, sometimes it's so hard because people will spend money on
Mhm.
anything, and not realize that they need this and that it is priceless.
I wanted to add that it was actually also a safe place.
Mhm.
So I know a lot of times people want to tell a story or want to share their story, and you don't know where to go and you don't know who to talk to. And if you're looking for that spot, that place, that camaraderie where you can tell your story and people will love you and cry with you and hold you, this is the gala. When I tell you it was a safe place, no one in the room felt uncomfortable to tell their story. And we were strangers. None of us.
Absolutely.
It was so natural. You knew that the room was gonna hold you. It's like a big hug. You knew that once you let go, you had the hug that was coming afterwards because that's what the gala was. It was
Mhm.
a healing process for all of us, and it was fantastic.
And it wasn't like, I want them to understand those were your feelings. What we're
Mhm.
talking about is what you felt. We're talking about what I felt.
Mhm.
But what Sharissa says is right on the money. We had a Q&A session right after the panelists spoke, and people were pouring their hearts out. They were just, they let it all out. So it's what that wasn't planned.
Mhm. It was some people who said I've never told this story,
Hmm.
but I want to share it, and you could tell that they needed to get it off their chest. Like I said, it was a gala that was needed for everyone in that room. We needed it. We didn't know how much we needed it until it was over. We were like, I needed this.
Oh my gosh. I just got goosebumps all over again. So, if there is anyone out there that has a question for me or Sharissa, don't forget, type away. What would you like to know? This is where you can purchase her book. You can find her on Instagram at 3 the harder way. And if you go to her Instagram and follow her, the Shopify link is in her bio. So you can click on that. You can go in there and find out more about her. Um, I'm so excited. She's gonna do book readings everywhere. I'm putting it in the air all
Yes,
across the United States. She's
not
doing
bad.
book readings.
Yeah.
And this is just the beginning for all of us because this isn't this started out with three of us, and the sisterhood and the tribe has grown so immensely that this event, I can't say is my event. I may have been the founder of Ajusta Tu Corona, but this is for all of you out there that have suffered adversity. Come, we welcome you with open arms, open heart, open minded, non judgmental, safe space. And we're just going to show you how much real love, real healing is like.
Yes. Lily, I want to thank you for adjusting my crown because if it
Ah,
wasn't for you, a lot of this I couldn't have done. So I just want to tell you how grateful I am for you.
for those of you that don't know, Sharissa was on this show December 9th last year, and
Yeah.
she was in the midst of writing her book. And we were like, she's like, oh, I don't know. And we're like, write it, write it, write it, do it, do it, do it. You can do it. You have such an amazing story to tell. And she did. And here she is today. And she has launched her book and she is ready to fly.
Thank you. Thank you. You are a huge, huge part of me finishing that book. I can't. I tell you that all the time, but I am forever grateful because if not,
Um,
I might not have been able to
I'm
push through.
glad you just needed that little push. And that's what I love to do. I love to help wherever I can. Um, Most of all, it's like you can't do it to everybody because everybody has to be ready to receive.
Hmm.
But if I can give you that little push, if I can open your eyes to what's possible for you, then I have fulfilled my mission from God because that's what I feel like it is. I feel like it is a mission from God. So, to all of you out there, never forget how amazing you are. Never forget how much you are loved. Never forget you, me, everyone, how exceptional you are. We all have a purpose. Ajusta tu corona and keep it moving. Any words you would like to say?
Just remember that you have to love yourself before you can love anyone else. So focus on you. As a young girl, I didn't have that. And so I hope that through my book and through my words, I will show that to other young women. Love yourself first, and everything else will follow. Put God first. Love yourself, and everything else will follow. I promise you. Thank you
Um,
for having me, Lillian.
You're welcome. Good night, everyone.
Good night.